Good morning. My name is Jack Dangerman, and I want to welcome all of you to your Users Conference here in Prague. This is the 23rd Users Conference. I just can't believe that. It seems like it was just yesterday when Peter asked that I come to the very first one, and it was a joy at that time. I know it's a joy now. These Users Conferences are designed to help you share your knowledge, to help you learn, for Esri to share some of its advancements, and we have been moving very quickly. That's what this morning is going to be about. And also just to get to know each other, because it is the human relations that is so very important in our community, a kind of geo-network of building geographic knowledge and applying it in various aspects of society that makes this field so very exciting. I want to particularly acknowledge some of the Czech users. Some of you are extraordinary in your work in terms of size, like CEC with a huge enterprise implementation for the utility space. Others are excellent in cartography. The Czech, whatever it is that happens in the Czech Republic, your cartography always wins many of the prizes at the international conference. And I'd like to basically call out the Czech Land Survey Office and some of your atlases, particularly the Climate Atlas, which has been featured a number of times in various places. I also noticed the Czech Geologic Survey getting the SAG Awards and other great examples in the Esri map book. And the Czech Army, particularly the Geographic Survey, also distinguishes itself with just great maps. And of course the maps are beautiful, but the databases behind them is the heart and soul of GIS. It's just remarkable. So I want to acknowledge you all. But I also want to acknowledge the good work at the middle level and the small GIS users across the nation. Often it is the small local government or small local applications where the actual strong work and effective footprints happen. And certainly there is hundreds of you here in the Czech Republic that are just do amazing work. And it's both, well, it's helping make GIS pervasive, a kind of platform for a better society, a better world. In terms of the overall framework of what's happening in GIS, GIS is becoming a kind of infrastructure or platform. And some leadership is happening both in Europe and also in the Czech Republic, building a kind of geo-information strategy. And what this really responds to is people sharing their maps and data for the community's good, a kind of open approach or open data approach, not only for data, but also services. There's a lot of talk today about being open, with the definition being open data. But data isn't very useful. I mean, it is to other GIS users, of course, but GIS open services are becoming even more important. In my country, for example, this has become a kind of way of the future, a wave of the future. And efforts like Inspire and also ELF, these are important building blocks that we are supporting and very interested in supporting you in the effort to build this fabric of bringing it together. Clearly, this year's Users Conference was about, theme was about GIS creating our future. And clearly this work, your work, in concert, in collaboration, is building a platform for creating the future. Now, a couple of words about the future. The future, if you read the newspapers on any given day, doesn't look so good. We're seeing social conflict, we're seeing environmental conflict, we're seeing climate change, loss of nature, shortages of food, outbreaks of things like Ebola. And yet, at the same time, one of the bright lights in this is the notion that geography and geographic information are becoming increasingly important in society, addressing some of these challenges. And many of you are actually working on that. I want to encourage you, because it's my belief system that geography has become more important than ever in what we do. It's increasingly both, not just geography like textbook geography, but geography as a framework for integration of all of the scientific data: geology, anthropology, land use, climatology. Not only all the sciences, but also all the human activities are hinging around this spatial or geospatial domain. And so as a result of that, your work, it's my sense, will be increasingly important in the evolution of the planet, the evolution of the Czech Republic in a microscope, but the evolution of the planet in general. So I want to acknowledge you for your work. My colleague, Jim McKinney, is going to speak to you in a few minutes. He's going to share with you some of our work, the work that we're doing to support you with advancing the method and advancing the technology. And there are some big stories here. This year, particularly, with the release of 10.3, we make a gigantic step in the use of the desktop. It modernizes it, makes it 64-bit, makes it easier. It integrates it completely with web services and cloud and big data. But also, we're seeing a huge shift in the web GIS pattern. And this means serving with standards-based REST services into a shared environment of web maps and web information. And this means we can collaborate, this new medium of web maps, we can collaborate, combine, mash up, do spatial analysis in a cloud environment that we really haven't been able to do in the past. This is a big jump. And so I want you to pay attention to this, because this generation of technology will not only make you and your colleagues more productive, but it'll also mean that you can easily share and realize some of these geoinformation strategy visions to share in a common environment your work. And that means your work gets better, but also the community's work gets better. It also means that you're able to not only do your own work, but also leverage your data by way of web services and new generations of apps into all the other knowledge workers in your organizations, as well as, where appropriate, citizens, and have better citizen engagement, better citizen communication, better connections. So as you can tell, I'm very, very, very enthusiastic about what we are doing. I'm thinking that GIS and your field, the very social network that you are creating here through this user meeting, is going to become increasingly important for your government, but also in the private sector and for society in general. Let me conclude with this, that your meeting is very important, and I want to both acknowledge you for being here, but also acknowledge you for building the relationships and friendships that you do through this meeting, because it's going to be increasingly important. You're increasingly part of this geospatial professional network that I believe will help everyone. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this chance, Peter, and I wish you all a great conference.
Hi, everyone. Oh, he's gone. Man, he emailed me last night about a bug. He wasn't nearly as happy as he was on that video. But hi, everyone. I'm Jim McKinney. I am honored to be here at your user conference. I have been to Prague before on a little bit of a holiday, but I'm back for work now and very excited to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the theme that Jack talked about and was a theme at our user conference, the International User Conference in San Diego, which is creating your future. And after the conference, I was talking to Jack, and it was ironic, you know, this year more than one in recent memory, we really saw some instrumental and fundamental change in what organizations were doing with the ARCGIS platform. It wasn't just pockets of technology, desktop users or server users, or people doing things in the back end, or people doing things in the back office. I mean, we saw entire cities completely automated. Rancho Cucamonga, the city of Minneapolis, you know, we had folks talking at that level, all of the departments collaborating, sharing their information and web services. It was really exciting. They were leveraging all aspects of the ARCGIS platform. And that's unique. I think that's what Jack is talking about. All of you have the opportunity to leverage all parts of the platform. You don't have to use all parts of the platform, but you certainly have the opportunity to do so. So, a bit about your important work and how you can actually create the future, affect the future with your work and your decisions. And then a bit about the technology, the ARCGIS platform, and if I don't run out of time, I'll be able to do a little bit of a demo here. So, this conference, it's all about GIS, it's all about geography, and it's all about you and your work. And it's about you sharing your work and learning from each other, understanding new things, and that really requires relationships. We have this tradition, I'm not going to do it this morning, which is really, you know, meeting someone and, you know, building a professional relationship that is long-lasting at these conferences. And that's, you know, really how we learn. So I encourage all of you to do that, and if you see me in the hall, just walk right up to me and hopefully I can answer any questions for you. A bit about creating our future. You know, you and I think about the future every day. We're involved in the future, more so than you think. You know, the future is us. You think about your favorite sports teams, you think about whether they're going to win the game or lose the game. You think about the future of the weather. Some of you may actually be professionally involved in predicting the weather. I'm sure some of you are. And a quotation by Peter Drucker is, the best way to predict the future is to create the future. That means that you and I, we really do have the power to make informed decisions to change the future. And you and I live in two different worlds. We live in an ordinary world where we get up and we go to work and we work on our important work and we come home and spend time with our families and our friends, and we operate in kind of a response mode. You know, we're doing the same thing. Of course, it's exciting. Of course, it varies. But we also live in a very interesting world. Let's just call it the extraordinary world. And this is a world of dreaming and creating and innovating and inventing. And we all do this as well, but we might not be really that conscious about it. We're quite conscious about it at Esri when we're building software. You know, imagine what we could do, and then actually we do it. We build it. And that's one of the actual joys and the satisfactions of working for Esri. So this, you know, a good example of this might be an architect. An architect may imagine what a new building would look like, where it will be, how it's oriented, how it's going to change a city, and what effect will it have, how will it block the light, how will it create a shadow. All of these things are imagined, and then it gets built, and it is the future. So we do this every day, and you know, something more closer to home, you imagine buying a house, you imagine buying a car, you imagine making a decision on where your child will go to school. You are making these decisions, and those are profound decisions that affect the future. You actually are creating the future every day. Think about that. It's not very far off. And, you know, our world is facing some serious challenges. Jack talked about this. Population growth, urbanization, pollution, energy overuse. These things are affecting climates, they're affecting our urban environments, our rural environments, our water supplies, and it's stressful. You can't turn on the news and see something that isn't disturbing. And it's an unprecedented time, and it's, you know, it's a bit scary for me at least, you know, and unfortunately it's constant. There always seems to be the next thing that makes us uncomfortable. And, you know, what we know can actually make a difference in these things. What we know can actually alleviate some of these things. I believe that, Jack believes that, and I hope you kind of believe that as well. You know, at this particular time, geography is more important than ever, I feel. The very work that you are doing is incredibly important. Geography as a science, it provides us the content and the context of our world. It provides a framework for understanding our world, bringing all of the measurements of our world together, analyzing them, visualizing them, understanding them. It's not simply physical geography. It's not simply the technology. It's the marriage of those two things and how they apply from an ecological sense, from plants to species to sociology to patterns to economics to money. The physical environment and the human patterns that we can think of here are endless. They're all interconnected, and they are all connected by geography. You know this, you're GIS professionals, but do you really know it? Do you really realize it, the power that you have? GIS is integrating geography into virtually everything that we do. It's changing the way that we think through seeing things differently. GIS is changing the way that we see things through our local organizations or even at the global level. It's also changing how we act. Saul Wurman says, understanding precedes action. If you don't know who Saul Wurman is, he's the gentleman that created the TED conferences. He's around Esri quite a bit, actually. It's pretty interesting to speak with that individual. He's fascinating. And GIS, the GIS that you're working on daily, is evolving. The GIS systems that you have, I'd say, aren't just desktop software anymore. It's becoming part of an interconnected platform. The servers that you're using are connecting internally, but also publicly through REST services externally, immediately making global information that you publish accessible. The desktops are connecting. The apps are being fed by shared community content. What I'm talking about here is web services, a new pattern of GIS, and it's evolving with everything else. It's evolving with faster computing power, with web services, with more open environments, with more open policies, with more open networks. And I understand that some of you work for organizations that simply can't share your data. Maybe it's critical infrastructure data like utility companies or military or intel, but there are public-facing aspects to those organizations as well, and they're being shared. So these are interesting times. WebGIS is bringing all of this together, and you know, we can actually solve some of those problems, I firmly believe, that I talked about a minute ago. WebGIS is leveraging advanced technologies. In a way, it's layering on top of the technology infrastructure, the computing power, the network power, the routing capabilities. It's really the cyber infrastructure, or the Internet of Things, you might call it. You've heard Jack say this quite a bit, the nervous system of the planet. I bet that pretty much every one of you has a mobile phone in your pocket. Some of you probably have 2, and there's people out there that have 3. You know, I have 4 devices that I brought with me. And what happens if you get very uncomfortable if you don't have access to those devices? That's how connected you are. And we're all, you know, moving that way if you're not there already. The planet's information and your information are various pieces of things that are both inside this nervous system of the planet. And it's incredible just how fast information travels. My wife likes Facebook. Anybody like Facebook here? We'll have a conversation, and then, you know, somebody halfway around the world knows about it 5 minutes later because she put it on Facebook. It's that fast. It's that disturbing for me, at least a little bit. But I think you understand what I'm talking about. WebGIS integrates all types of data, all types of information, organizing and sharing your focus work through web maps, 2D web maps, and web services, and web scenes, 3D maps that are being launched with the ARCGIS 10.3 release in December of this year. Your maps are becoming web services. Your analytics are becoming services that are available on the open internet or on-premise behind your firewalls for your own users. And imagery services and real-time things like traffic or traffic accidents are good examples of this. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, I can go on about these things, are normalized through web services. And when you put web maps on top of those feeds, it's incredibly fascinating, the communication that's happening real time and the change that that communication can affect. Even with big data, you know, the enormous amounts of data that's connected through web services and actually analyzing it and identifying the meaningful patterns and then seeing those things visually on a map or a web map, analyzing them even further, and then making course corrections because of, you know, mining that big data. It happens every day. And, you know, these are being served through portals, and ArcGIS Online is a portal itself. It makes millions of maps a day, and it's really just the beginning, actually. It's fascinating to see this. So this is being implemented both in the open web, in the cloud, if you will, but it's also can be implemented on-premise through various organizations behind your firewalls using ArcGIS Server and Portal, really a private cloud, if you will. And the app revolution is making WebGIS available to everyone, everywhere, anytime, on any device. You know, I already talked about the number of devices in your pocket, and you know exactly how many that you have. What happens if they all just stopped working one day? Would you freak out? You would, you know, because I would. You know, that's how dependent we've gotten on these things. That's how hungry we are for information. But taking action on that information and making better informed decisions is actually changing your world. So, mobile devices everywhere. You know, they're ubiquitous. Whether it's a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, a ruggedized device, an Android tablet, an iPad, an Android phone, a Windows phone, an iOS phone. You know, the next thing, the thing in the back seat of the aircraft that uses Qt to monitor where you are, but also feed all those services to you. You know, it's all just tech. And what's important is what we use it for and the decisions we make while using it. That and a lot of other things in the WebGIS family are transforming how GIS professionals work, how you do your work. You know, it's improving how you organize and share your knowledge. It's enriching your personal work because you're getting all of these streams of information. It's almost information overload, and you filter out the things that are important to you, and you act on things that are even more important to you, and then you get rid of the things that aren't important to you, the spam, the noise. But we're all getting better at that. And sharing your maps, sharing your data, sharing your models, sharing your layers, sharing your workflows. This kind of GIS community spirit is really exploding. You know, people taking a model builder model and just emailing it to someone and putting it on GitHub and having someone else download it and tweak it and change it, whether it's source code or whether it's a model or whether it's a layer. You know, all these things are being very transparent. And it's improving all of our productivity. You know, everybody's GIS is getting better, I feel. Talk a little bit about geodesign. Geodesign is a formal process that takes geographic information and links it to the design and decision-making and planning process using collaboration. Building on the power of GIS into the cycle, allowing alternative methods or plans to be looked at in virtual ways, to be compared, evaluated, really leads to better decision making. I bet a lot of you are out there thinking geodesign, you know, that's for landscape architects, or that's for architects only. You know, that doesn't apply to me. That's for city planners. That's for designers. No, actually, geodesign is about designing the landscape, yes. And it's equally interesting for business people wanting to locate a new store or where their competitors are, as it is to a farmer rotating crops, or an architect determining where a building should be and where it should be oriented, or where a dam should be built or a reservoir. Geodesign can be applied to all of these things. And if you look at the work that we do, geodesign has a role to play in almost everyone's activities when you really think about it. It's really extending from the science side into the creative side, that extraordinary side of your work that kind of is always in your subconscious, but we all do it every day if you just stop and think about it. And in some ways, we all can become better geodesigners. You know, it might be presumptuous of me to say that or suggest that, but I really want you to think about it, because I had to think about it when Jack walked in my office and laid this story on me for the first time. You know, here's a landscape architect. And don't tell me that, I got to build software. But it was true. And we are embracing it, and we're building technology, but we're building processes that can leverage geodesign in incredible ways. And all of the problems that we have clearly need this type of technology role, and we can leverage geodesign to make better decisions, really to create our future. So creating a better future requires GIS professionals. It's a bold statement. You know why? Because it's only you that actually understand everything that I've just talked about. How many times have you gone into a dinner party and someone asked you what you did, and you said, I work with GIS software, and they looked at you like, what? What's that? Oh, I work with maps. And they say things like, haven't we mapped everything? No, we haven't. And we can make a lot better decisions by leveraging geography and maps and the data that powers them. And we can create a better future. Geodesign is a way to actually bring that leadership forward with you and your community and GIS professionals around the world, because you already understand this, and you're very, very good at it. There's a lot of people that don't understand what we do, and we can educate them. We can teach them, starting with little kids up to college professors. I've done it personally. It's really gratifying. You know, I've watched GIS evolve for over 25 years. Jack, Scott, Clint, they've watched it evolve for decades. I've learned an immense amount of information from them, but also from interacting with customers, solving real problems, building real systems. We've watched how you work, and we work to evolve the technology and where it's going based upon your workflows and understanding your important work. It's not just based upon the technology. We don't build something just because it's cool to build it. Our sense is that this really isn't just a possible thing, it's an inevitable thing. We think that the larger role of creating a better future will have huge bearing from GIS professionals in that community. So give it a thought. Challenge yourself and your organizations to do more to make a positive difference for our planet and our future. The variance of you in this room and the people that you work with back at your organizations is unbelievable. And that network of people and information and education and decision making is incredibly powerful when you chain it together and look at it globally. So a little bit about our work at Esri. It's because of our work that I feel we really can achieve this, or we can enable and empower you to achieve this. What I've been talking about so far, changing your future or creating your future. Our work is guided by listening to you, listening to what you need, and trying to provide that to you. We're not always able to build what you ask us to build, but we try really hard to get the high priority things built. And we embody our work in something called the ARCGIS platform. And it's about building and enabling tools, providing services and education with strong partners and distributors like ARCDATA, and supporting our users, supporting your important work. That's how we really thrive and get our satisfaction, you know, seeing the amazing things that you do with what we build. And ARCGIS is an integrated web GIS. This is what Jack was talking about earlier. It's not just about people sharing files in desktop work groups. Yes, that's important. Yes, that happens everywhere in the world, but the opportunity is to go far beyond that, and we're seeing some real awesome examples of that. And when I talk about web GIS, I don't just mean GIS on the internet. It's also on-premise. It's your choice where you actually want to implement this pattern. It provides mapping and analytics and data management and increasingly collaboration. Some of you are familiar with this diagram. We've used it quite a bit. It evolves every year, but it's all about services from servers and online sources organized in a portal providing access to apps and devices or browsers or desktops. This is a complete architecture that can be implemented completely on-premise, but it's also the architecture that ArcGIS.com uses as it leverages Amazon and Azure in the cloud and leverages ArcGIS server as well in the cloud. And it's very, very flexible. So think about how your organization can benefit from this WebGIS pattern. Excuse me. As we go forward, we're extending the ArcGIS data model also to include more information products. You know, in the 80s and the 90s, it was file-oriented with coverages. Who used coverages? Who still uses ArcInfo? There's hands, all right. I learned ArcInfo on a VAX mainframe, version 3.0. That's how I started my GIS career. And it was fun then, and it's still fun now. But then we moved into relational databases that we could use in a platform to support multi-user access to the data. Now what we're doing is moving into this WebGIS pattern with a services model, extending the model with layers and web maps, and maps that actually travel with the data. So what we do is evolving, and it will continue to evolve, and this is an incredibly powerful pattern. So think about how your organization uses that. This linking together a traditional GIS in different departments or teams with this whole new world through WebGIS supports you in your various missions. And these data can be streamed out to support a whole new community of developers. This is a very common platform approach for the enterprise, but it's also connecting these communities underneath so that they can collaborate better and faster. Another way to think about the ArcGIS platform, it includes ArcGIS desktop and apps, ArcGIS apps. We call them platform apps like Collector and Explorer. It includes ArcGIS APIs and SDKs, software development kits. It includes the back-end geospatial infrastructure that's installable software on-premise, which is ArcGIS Server and Portal. Or you can access the same pattern through a subscription using ArcGIS Online. And you really don't need to have software installed locally. You can put things in the cloud if you choose. And it supports enterprises, organizations, developers, and individuals. It supports all of it. So the platform is pretty powerful in that way. It's accessible from any device. It's powered by services. Portal, the Portal extension for server, really organizes all of the data or the content. It really brings WebGIS to life. And you can have it on-premise or you can have it online, your choice. Another way to look at this is the platform in terms of what it does. And there's really three main aspects to what the ArcGIS platform does, and they can be used dependently or they can be used independently or in a combination. The first thing is a mapping platform for organizations, hosting your data, creating maps. It lets you publish apps, share within the organization or with the world. And available online by subscription or on-premise, powered by ArcGIS Server. The second is a location platform for developers. You know, developers make amazing things, and all of the various SDKs are available as part of the platform, like iOS and Android and JavaScript and .NET, so on and so forth, to allow people to build native applications. Helps people build a variety of apps. And the third is really the full professional GIS for enterprises of all sizes, supporting full geocentric workflows with rich applications for people working with geospatial data. So that's kind of a different view of the platform. So what are some themes of the ArcGIS platform? Some big ones specifically. Here's some of the common ones that we're working with for dealing with aspects of the platform. And one of them is quality. We're constantly listening to you, listening to your issues, and fixing issues that impede your important work. It's extremely high on our priority list, always. As an example, if you're running desktop software, if you're running ArcMap and you get a crash, please submit it to us. We have a team of people that analyze those crash dumps after they're automatically analyzed, and we put those things in high priority for the next software release. They don't go into a black hole. They go into a very capable team that pushes really hard to get that stuff fixed, and share your pain with us through something as simple as submitting a crash dump. And if you're behind a firewall and you don't have access to the open internet, give it to your account manager, put it on a disk, there's files written. You know, let us fix those problems for you. Quality is really, really important for us. Spatial analysis, another aspect. This is looking at or adding new operators to analytical tools like space-time patterns analysis, or improved modeling or integration of multidimensional data. The 10.3 release has real good support for scientific data like NetCDF and GRIB, so that we can mine those information cubes. And flow visualization dynamically as well. And migrating more of these analytical tools to the online environment, or standing up as services on-premise through server and portal. So we keep taking bits and pieces of things that traditionally are geoprocessing tools only in desktop and putting them online, like network analysis and geocoding and hotspot analysis and many of these tools. So we're constantly advancing the fundamental science of geography with spatial analysis. And there's some really great stuff that's in online now and then going to be released with 10.3. Desktop at 10.3 continues to improve as well. Lots of geoprocessing tools, great support for imagery, great support for multidimensional data. And we're introducing a brand new app called ArcGIS Pro. It's part of the ArcGIS for desktop family. It's really the next generation of a universal desktop app for the GIS community, everyone in the GIS community. ArcGIS Pro really fuses together aspects of all of the desktop applications. It supports 2D and 3D in one application instead of 3 separate applications like ArcMap, ArcScene, and ArcGlobe, and ArcCatalog. It supports multiple views, multiple layouts, new analytics, and a lot more. And hopefully, if I don't run out of time, I'll be able to do a little demo of it for you as well. So we're really excited about bringing ArcGIS Pro out with 10.3. Has anybody used it in beta or pre-release? Okay, cool, thank you. There's a few hands out there. Again, if you hit any issues, let us know. We're in the final stretch of finishing the first release of the product, so let us know through the GeoNet space, or through talking to us on forums, or through account management, or through an automated means as well. Real time is also another theme that is really pushing throughout the ArcGIS platform. We're supporting monitoring and alerting with a lot of new additions, more sensors, satellite sensors, more spatial analytics in process or in stream, whether those are SCADA devices that are not mobile, sending signals, or mobile devices as well. You know, all of you, every single one of you, if you're walking around with a phone, you're all a sensor. You're part of this data. Telecommunications companies and Apple and Microsoft and Google, they're all mining your data. And so, you know, we're all sensors in effect. But doing something useful with that data, making better decisions, understanding patterns, is what you can do that other people might not understand, because you understand this. It's all geographic in nature. We're working very closely with OSIsoft, the world leader in time-based software, and all of these things are going into the ArcGIS Geo Event extension for server. So look at that in the upcoming 10.3 release as well. We're also adding more capabilities in 3D, bringing 3D to life across the entire platform. in desktop with not just ArcScene or ArcGlobe, but also in ArcGIS Pro, in browsers, in mobile devices, bringing 3D to all of these things within the platform. This has been a huge investment by us and our development teams. It's not easy work understanding 3D, but it's really challenging work. 3D has a huge surface area, and it takes our existing APIs and our existing software to a whole different level. It's challenging, but it's really, really fun. I've personally been involved a lot with the 3D aspects of ArcGIS Pro, and it's really satisfying to see what you can do with 3D. I'm a traditional 2D GIS user, and I've been learning 3D, if you will, for the last 3 years, and I'm still learning. But it's amazing how you can visualize data differently and make better decisions. So we hope that you will find this valuable, 3D fusing into the platform. If you haven't used 3D before, I think you will. And my prediction is in a few years, 3D is just going to be second nature. If I were here, 3 years from now, all of you would just be very comfortable with 3D if you're not comfortable already. And it's just a natural evolution, and we're going to empower that across the entire platform. Geodesign, we talked about this a little earlier, but we're doing 2 major engineering efforts here. One's called the GeoPlanner, which is 2D web services, which is a geodesign tool that allows data to be analyzed and be designed on top of 2D services very, very quickly. And then alternate plans can be generated and better decisions can be made by looking at all of the alternate plans. Some people way back when called these spatial decision support systems. I did a lot of work on that when I was in college and afterwards. But it's making better decisions through iterative planning. And this workflow is also being supported in the desktop. City Engine is a great example of this, having multiple rules to see multiple assets like buildings or structures in 3D, and then comparing them and contrasting them and seeing how your city or how your urban landscapes would change with the addition or the subtraction of these things. So City Engine is, continues to grow there. ArcGIS Pro supports geodesign quite well, and the editing environment in it actually borrows from CAD systems. So having a CAD-like editing environment that bringing that and fusing it in with GIS systems I think is really powerful. So this is not just for the design community, like I said earlier. This is for all of us. These are tools that we can all leverage and all use, and they will become pervasive, and you'll make better decisions using them. So check them out if you're not using them. Imagery. Imagery continues to play a huge role in the ArcGIS platform. And it's all about managing, analyzing, and serving intelligent imagery, not just pictures, but pixels, and pixels with information. And here we're really looking to support more scientific formats, new image processing platforms and sensor models, new processing tools, and tools for more advanced visualization of imagery. The purpose here isn't just to support single image scenes. The purpose here is to deal with massive thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of image scenes mosaic together at the same time, being processed in line. And that's really the imagery that we're talking about. And I've seen some unbelievably large imagery systems, and we're going to continue to put a huge amount of effort here. Content. In the content space, there's people that have shared over 2 million maps using ArcGIS Online. And that doesn't even count the maps that people are creating on-premise with your servers and portals. And that number continues to grow. So at any given time, you can go and start querying or filtering ArcGIS online and just see a variance of maps, which is absolutely stunning and amazing. And Esri itself, we have a very large team dedicated to continuing to put really valuable content that's available to all of you as part of the ArcGIS platform. So we've added a series of maps and data sets that we've been building for landscape, for base maps, for imagery, for demographics, for change detection. And we've been adding these globally in places, all over the world as we can. And we're going to continue to invest in this and add these things. And locally, ArcData have been doing some great work here too, working with you. And we hope to empower you to do great things with your data locally, but we also hope that you share it with your other organizations, sister brother organizations, with your country, with other countries, with the world, and we build, a living atlas is our real goal, using ArcGIS Online, or simply standing up services from your local servers so people can reach into various aspects that you allow them to from your databases. That's really how WebGIS is just going to explode. And we're seeing it happening now. It's pretty interesting. Geo-enrichment. This is really a new collection of content that we call geo-enrichment. This is an online service that allows you to take your data and append it to map data. And so it's kind of like adding new columns in a spreadsheet of business data. If I have points of customer locations, fine, I have points of customer locations. I have location. What I really want to know is, what is that customer close to? Where do they go shopping? Where could they go shopping? Where do they spend money? What's the demographic information that makes them and their neighborhood valuable to me or not valuable to me? Do I want to target them for particular sales of a particular merchandise? Is their beautiful new house located on a garbage dump and they don't even know it? Is there something in the water? All of these demographic and also different types of geopolitical data can be joined or fused using geo-enrichment. So an example of this in this map is really points that intersect with multiple polygon layers. This is the point and polygon problem for you older GIS folks out there, if you know what I'm talking about. It simply returns and joins this information into your original points, in your Excel spreadsheet, if you will, or into your SAP customer table, or into your Micro Focus table, or into your IBM Cognos system. These are all things that can work really well with geo-enrichment. So this is quite similar to traditional operators, but different because it takes place through services, online services. And it has a business focus to it, but you can use it for other things as well. So this capability is going into all aspects of the ArcGIS platform, including desktop. So at 10.3, you can be sitting in desktop and actually use the geo-enrichment tools to take those points that you just geocoded and append very valuable information that lives in the cloud to those points to make those points more valuable to you for your important workflows. And that's really powerful. So if you want to geo-enrich your data with thousands of demographic data sets or landscape data or other types of data, you can actually do it pretty easily right now. And these services are up and running right now. If you haven't used them, check them out. Business system apps. The same is true of business systems. These are tools that provide simple mapping and location analytics for opening up and making available data that's inside of your systems, inside of Salesforce, inside of SAP, inside of CRM systems. And really, you don't think about, those data are locked in there often, and these apps actually can reach in, bring them out so you can visualize them on maps and do spatial analysis with them. It provides self-service mapping for someone who doesn't know anything about GIS, really, or geo-enrichment. They just want to see the data. They want to spatially enable their large CIS systems and fuse that data together in innovative ways with their business data. So all of these apps are included for all of our desktop, online, and server users. They're part of the ArcGIS platform. You have access to them. A little bit about interoperability. We also continue to work on interoperability, ensuring that your data and systems interoperate with one another, with geospatial technologies and IT infrastructure in general. And we do this by supporting standards like OGC and WWW and ISO, but also industry standards like CAD standards or CityGML or other types of standards from different domains. And really, this is a process. It's not an event. We don't do it perfectly, and we have to keep working at it, but we keep doing a good job in improving this with every release of the software. So that's another big theme. And the roadmap for GIS is about advancing the platform with incremental software releases. And this is a continuous improvement. So last year we released 10.2. We also released 2 updates to that, 10.2.1 and 10.2.2. And then in December we'll be releasing 10.3. We're in final certification of 10.3 right now, back in Redlands. And we continuously, respond to what you asked for, to what you voted on for the ideas website, if you use that, or what you talk about in your forums, or what you tell your account managers at events like this, or what you walk up to me at this event and tell me, I really need this, Jim. And I write it down, and we really try to do it for you. And we've also got a lot of projects that are research projects that are looking in the future. We've got about a dozen of these that are outlined up here, things like crowdsourcing, massive 3D meshes, 3D base maps, advanced navigation for vehicles, big data support, more features in desktop, vector web map supportability, the ability to take vector web maps offline onto mobile devices, to do field inspection or other types of workflows, and continued more advanced in analytics and modeling, and so forth. So we're constantly working at all of this. And that's the end of my presentation. But I still have 6 minutes, and I want to do a demo of ArcGIS Pro. Is that okay? Can we do that? It's up. All right. So this is a brand new desktop application called ArcGIS Pro. Let's see if we got this working. Nice. As you can see, it's a ribbon-based user interface. So there's tabs along the upper part of this. It's a 64-bit multi-threaded application, and it supports 2D and 3D. And the mapping tab is where you can pan and zoom, where you have these nice bookmarks with places that you want to go that have pictures. If you want to pull a base map from ArcGIS Online, where you do your selections. Infographics, that's really part of that geo-enrichment that I talked about earlier, where you can measure, where you can locate, geocode, where I insert brand new maps, both 2D and 3D, scenes or maps, where I manage my map layouts. Analysis is where the Python window is, where you can interactively execute Python, automate the application, model builder, all of your favorite tools, all of your, almost 1,000 geoprocessing tools. This is where all your favorite tools are, like hotspot, kernel density, merging, dissolving, clipping, buffering, so you can put all your tools here in this accessible area. Raster processing functions. Viewing is really where I can take maps and convert them between 2D and 3D. I can link views together. I can execute tasks and Python scripts. Editing is really my editing environment, where I create features, modify features, move them, work their vertices, split lines, points, polygons, so on and so forth. And then sharing is really where I create map packages or project packages, or I create web maps, 2D web maps, or web scenes, 3D web scenes, or where I do printing or exporting of my maps. So ArcGIS Pro has a pane Instead of a TOC, it has a pane look and feel. This is Sonoma County, famous for their wines in Northern California. You can zoom in here, zoom into downtown Sonoma. And it's a very fast application. It doesn't make you wait. It has very smooth panning and zooming. It manages a local cache. So it's not continually reading from disk, it's caching from disk. So it's got that smooth panning and zooming feeling to it, no tearing or jaggedness of the data. As I kind of drill into, say, local government at the 4,000K level, I'll look at the road center lines layer, and this feature became enabled. It says feature layer. This is a context-sensitive menu. So this is a simplified user interface because it only presents things to you when they can be used. And I can change things like the transparency, or I can, swipe things with a swipe tool here. I've got access to symbology. I can also work with labeling. So labeling is dynamic. If you, let me get back to a bookmark where there were some good labels. I can change the style. I can change the font. Kind of watch this railroad down here. Here, I'll change it to red. How many of you use ArcMap and you have to go through all of those menus to shut all the symbols, and then you finally hit apply and it changes the label? Well, everything's just totally dynamic now. If I want to change the size, I change the size. I can nudge the size up and down. I can change the rendering of where the labels are. Everything is real time, if you will. So it's really nice from that perspective to have that real time feedback for the labels. Also, I'll just change this back. How many of you kind of get upset about seeing your data schema? And you really want to see your fields, your subdomains, your subtypes, your domains. Well, they're all here in a nice Excel spreadsheet look and feel. So here are all your fields. And you can also look at your domains and your subtypes. You can add items, you can change item types, you can do everything right inside the application now. So you can manage your data and manage your data schema quite nicely and quite well. That valuable to you? All right, we got some claps. It's also a 3D application. So it's a very fast 3D application. So let's take a little tour of wine country, Chateau St. John. I've been to some of these wineries, Francis Ford Coppola winery. You can see that this is a very fast, fluid frame rate that we're getting. We're leveraging the GPU in this software. Zooming, panning is really quite nice. If I want to interact with 2D and 3D, I can do that. I can have independent views. I can link views together. I can go down into Sonoma Valley, and then we'll dive into the city of Sonoma itself. And almost all of you that have 2D geodatabases and work in a city have building footprints. This is really cool. I'm going to turn on buildings. So I just turned them on. But those are not multi-patches. All that is a 2D building footprint polygon which is symbolized with a 3D symbol. You can bring your city to life with just 2D building polygons, and it will automatically extrude them and put facades on them. And you can see that this is the property of this is it's a rule package. It actually comes out of City Engine as an RPK, and we're going to provide a lot of these with ArcGIS Pro. So you can actually define what you want your city to work with. And how easy is this? I just clicked on something, but we have something called preset layers. So we're going to add trees. So I want realistic trees. All I need is a point feature class that has some attributes that are well-known attributes. And I select it. The symbology is automatically defined for me on the fly. I can do that with buildings as well. The tree type, the height, the crown width, everything is done on the fly with these preset layers. And it's pretty amazing how fast you can bring these cities to life. Here, maybe I'll zoom down to the street level, and we'll just walk down the street of Sonoma in this piece of software. So think about this. Geodesign, being able to see things that quickly. And here, I'll zoom over to this building. You can see that there is no building here. See, it's missing. So what do I want to do with this? Well, I'm going to pull a vertical new window out of there, and I'll go to that building in my 2D view. Okay? Let me shut this down, close that. So I'll turn on these building footprints. And you can see that that's the same building. So with ArcGIS Pro, you're always editing. You don't have to start in a sketch or an edit session. You don't have to get confused. If you want to edit data, you just edit data. I want to add a new building. So I'm going to add it. You can see that I have nice CAD-like feedback features, bearing, angles. You can get quite sophisticated with the precision here. So I just added a building in 2D. Watch 3D. Watch the 3D view. There it is. So now that I just digitized something in 2D, my quality assurance, my QA/QC procedures, I can see in 3D. That's pretty cool. So now I can take this 3D view, select that building, and let's take a look at its attributes. It's too high. This is a parametric-driven building. So I drive everything off of a 3D symbol with a rule. Watch the building shrink. It just shrunk. I'll clear it. So just that quickly, I can edit in 2D, see the features in 3D. I can edit in 3D, see the features in 2D. It's an interoperable 2D, 3D editing experience. And that's pretty cool. If I go to the project pane, this is really where I manage all my projects. And I have some maps. I have some layouts. So let me open some of them. Here's one for riparian corridors, which is healthy vegetation around streams. Here's another one, which is downtown Sonoma Plaza. My point isn't just to show you maps. My point is to show you multiple map layouts simultaneously that support 2D and 3D at the same time. So I am out of time. That's a little bit of overview of ArcGIS Pro. If you're interested in Pro, I'm going to be doing a session later on. And come and talk to me at the conference, and thanks for your time.